Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Life by Design podcast. On this week's episode, I talk with Sam Hunter. As a highly sought after transformation, performance, and relationship coach, she takes leaders, entrepreneurs, celebrities, athletes, and ambitious individuals to the next level. Her work is more than just coaching, it's a highly transformational experience enabling people to shift the way they view themselves, others, and the way they interact with the world. It's powerful work, support, expert strategy, and accountability that change the trajectory of your life. In this week's episode, we spoke about understanding where success can make you miserable or fulfilled. The question of, is this it? How high performers fear losing motivation, the importance of meaning and contribution, and much, much more. Enjoy the episode. Sam Hunter, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here with you today.
My friend, we were introduced by Elliot Roy, which I'm extremely grateful for. And having researched you, I feel like we're very much on a similar page, which is very cool. But before we get started, can you give the guys a 60 to 90 second spiel of who you are and what's got you to where you are today?
Yes, absolutely. So Sam Murphy Hunter, as I was just telling you, maiden name, married name, kind of a mess, getting it all consolidated all over the place. So I am all of those. And I do transformational work. When I first got into this space, I struggled with what do I want to call what I do? But what I'm really obsessed with is how do we produce lasting, powerful change for people in the quickest way possible? And what are the tools and vehicles to be able to do that? So it's really about helping people identify where they at, where do they want to be, and then helping them remove those barriers to getting and achieving what they have. Often those are internal barriers with mindset and belief, but also external barriers. So it started as individual transformation work that then naturally evolved to communication, relationships, and then also co-founders. Because a lot of what I had found is people would have success, but were they having that joy, happiness, and fulfillment? And oftentimes what was lacking was maybe that intimate connection, that partnership, being able to relate. And as humans, we are wired for connection. So that became a piece of it too, of helping break down the fallacy of what it takes to have great connection, whether that is with a business partner, a spouse, family members, different things in between. And so how can we kind of allow that to translate and transform across all sectors?
That's quite succinct, actually, that intro.
I
I am really interested in something that I've seen on your website, something that I've seen on your social, and now you've spoken to it. And it became apparent to me, and a big part of the reason I moved into the coaching space was because I couldn't understand why so many successful people were unhappy. And when I see you talk about success and fulfillment, I'm loving it. But where are people going wrong with bringing those two things to life?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, got here because I lived it, had that life that looked so great. So before doing this, I was an orthopedic distributor, so totally different world that I was in. And I had on paper and what looked like, okay, the company was going well. I'm young, I'm making a lot of money, I'm having success. Only problem, I was miserable. And at the time, I actually didn't even really realize I was miserable. I remember waking up in my 20s thinking, well, I guess this is adulthood. I guess I've made it. Just, I'm going to do the thing. But I never really saw a model of people thriving. I saw a lot more of we're doing the thing and there's bouts of joy and fun and happiness. But I realized, and for a while, actually, I didn't realize. I just thought, okay, this is it, right? This is the human experience. I hadn't yet said, let's look inside. I remember on this journey, I woke up and realized one day, actually, a friend of mine pointed out to me or reflected, you're depressed. And if you ever hear something that really resonates, I burst out in tears. And I kind of joke, I feel like I did the American thing. Maybe it's a global thing. I don't know. You can tell me. But I was like, is there a pill for that? Like, I don't really have time for that. Like, what does that mean? I had been in years of therapy and trying different things for stuff that I had been through, but I had never really found a method or modality that felt really effective. And so I got into this place of, okay, is this all? Is this all that's here? And is this what's really meant for? And then fast forward, I got pregnant, which was a beautiful surprise. And it really forced me to stop running because I was in this habit of chasing happiness, which I imagine you can relate. And we see so many clients in this place of I'll be happy when I sell the company, when I get married, when I move, and then we do it. And then we don't feel the way we thought we were going to feel when we got there. And so we're on this hedonic treadmill of the next thing, maybe not even celebrating or experiencing the journey along the way. But what does that mean and how do we do it? Because I think we'll all hear it's not about the result, it's the journey. And it's like, great, cool. I love that quote. What? How do we do it? And so being pregnant really forced me, I feel like it was whatever people's beliefs are, God, universe, intervention that forced me to stop running because I was constantly chasing. I became an adrenaline junkie. Maybe if I fly that fighter jet with my dad, ooh, maybe that wasn't enough adrenaline for me. Maybe I need to jump out of a plane. And I remember one of the things that really woke me up is I did this with my dad. It was for his birthday. He wanted to fly fighter jets. So we went to Van Nuys, California. And of course, we're with pilots, but did this fighter jet experience through L39 check trainers. It's really quite cool as I look back. But at the time, I remember we landed and my dad's like, so excited, kind of jacked up. And I'm like, I don't like really feel that. And I was like, maybe it wasn't like intense enough for me. So I said, hey, Dad, let's go skydiving tomorrow. He's like, okay. So the next day we go skydiving, we jump out of a plane and we land and he's still really pumped and excited. And I'm kind of like numb neutral. And I'm like, wasn't enough to get me too curious where I dove in at that moment, but enough to say that's interesting. Then when I was pregnant and I started to reflect on, oh, what has been dictating my life and really starting to explore what do I want my son to know is possible and what principles have I been operating under? And when I started to turn inward instead of that outward thing, I realized most of my life had been dictated by fear. Like, what were people going to think? What did they want? My connection and obsession with achievement that equaled love. And if I didn't have that, that I was going to be homeless and alone and unlovable and die alone under a bridge. And of course, I wasn't conscious of all of that, but really starting to explore what is this wiring and what is this programming that has set us up to be the way that we are. And one of the things I'll talk to clients about a lot is we update the phones, we update the computers. They're always reminding us, when's the last time we updated our operating system or our software, hardware? Because so much of it is installed or adopted or we observe or we take on very young. And although it served us at some point in time, it is not necessarily serving us today. And so many people, we get fixated or attached to something, our definition or version of success. And sometimes it's not even truly our definition. It's what we saw would make mom or dad happy or proud or what we thought we were supposed to do. So we go really hard after it and we get it. And it's beautiful because in all of our patterning or wounding, however we want to refer to it, there is a gift. Sometimes that allows us to be very driven, very ambitious. But if we get it and don't feel that way, we can get caught in this pattern of never really living and experiencing and moving on to that next thing. So one of the things that I always want to explore with people, and I had to do for myself first, was dive into where did this come from? Why do I want it? Is it my desire? Or is it someone else's because I thought it's what I'm supposed to do or what I needed to do to get love? And how do I find something else? And then when we can really start to be honest with ourselves, which many of us have never even permissioned ourselves to do, we can get curious of what's really inside. What do we want? What lights us up? How do we want to feel on a daily basis? And a lot of times too, we're putting off happiness or enjoyment for this time in the future. When really, if we're wanting to experience freedom, and maybe we think success is going to bring money and money is going to bring freedom, well, what else allows us to feel freedom that we can start to do today? So starting to look at what do we really desire to have? And I think really looking to inviting people to look at that holistic picture of it's not just business with everything else siloed off. It's what do we want relationships? What do we want health to look like? What do we want everything to look like? And do we believe it's possible to have it all? Or do we have some beliefs that are we can have this or that? We can have this, but that will suffer. And really starting to help people uncover and unlock where'd that programming come from? How do we rewrite it and rewire it so that we can start living and enjoying now and not having guilt or shame or not being enough or any of those things that can plague so many of us, holding us back?
There's a lot in that.
That was a lot. I was like, literally while I was saying that, I was like, did I breathe? I just, it's a really
You
long answer.
didn't, and I loved it. I love that you held your breath for about 10 minutes and just went. So we are so on the same page, which makes for a really interesting conversation. I can only imagine. I don't know about you when you were transitioning out of the um, default path of what success looked like, and you started to kind of break it down and form your own. But I remember hearing 1,001 times, um, money doesn't equal happiness, like all the kind of standard mottos. And conceptually, I kind of understood that, but I hadn't got to a place of the breaking down the new integration of a certain way of living and then the embodiment of it. I can only assume, and correct me if I'm wrong, in your world, as you're working with these super successful people, it's very hard to get off the hedonic treadmill and not think that the next win is the answer. But, if you was kind of smart enough, you look back over the last 10 years and go, oh, I thought that was going to be the answer. And I thought that was going to be the answer. And I thought that was going to be the answer. Is that a common theme that you see in your world?
Absolutely, I think so. Now, not everybody has it, and I think there's varying degrees to how much did they enjoy whatever past win was, right? And what did it temporarily give them or allow them to feel? And I'd say that's very common. So being able to be with people, I think part of the gift and the hesitation when I first got in this line of work was, how do we have rapport and not be too confrontational that I'm going to break that and make you feel
Mm,
upset, but also being brave and willing enough to be like, hey, can we look at this? Can we explore this together? Because I kind of want to call bullshit that next thing is the thing, because let's be honest. And then really helping them say, okay, what's this next thing going to give us? What does it really give us? Oh, okay, it gives us financial freedom. And there is an aspect to money, of course, as we'll talk about
totally.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs
Mm,
that does it make some things easier? Yes, it does.
100%.
So I'm not somebody to say, hey, we don't need it, like peace and love, like, let's live in the van. Like, yes, on peace and love, and sure on a van if you want. And many couples fight about money. Funny, money
Mm.
is a thing that can bring and cause stress. So there is truth to it, but also sometimes people will go beyond. They may have way more than they need. And so it's starting to uncover and be curious of like, tell me what this is going to offer. Can we look at this together? Okay, tell me more. Right? And how do we kind of keep going another layer deeper of what we're really seeking? And sometimes it is safety, but we actually have the amount of money that is safe that they do not need anymore. But it's really then that invitation of, oh, as a kid, I never felt safe. We didn't have enough food, or they're what, oh, okay, great. Can we be with that? And let's work to integrate and be with that part so that if we still want that desire and we want to go for this goal, absolutely, but that it doesn't hijack us and take us over, that we can never slow down and maybe even cause damage along the way. Because if we're so stuck on this that we're ignoring maybe family, relationship, do those start to deteriorate our health? So helping to slow down and say, okay, what's there and what part is driving? Is it that desire towards something because we want it, or is it away from fear or away from pain or something? And so helping to reorient so that we can be pulled and fueled towards a desire, but we also are then in total choice of, yes, I'm going to keep moving, and I'm also going to slow down, and I can take weekends off, and I can make it to my kids' games, and there's room for this. So there's also no burnout.
Is there a common theme with the type of person that you attract? Is there a common wound or theme behind the quote unquote success? Because to your point, it's all in your relationship to success or money as to whether it's a problem or not. And, some of the really interesting research is around no matter where someone's at, if you ask them how much money they think they need, it's generally two to five times more than they've got, which becomes the
Mhm.
slippery slope, and that becomes the issue. But do you see a common theme in terms of what is the wounding or the desire that isn't quite coming from the right place?
Okay, and of course, there are exceptions, but two that I see quite often is, are we motivated and driven from a place of feeling not enough? And I would
Mm,
say on the surface, many of us may not resonate. Like anybody listening, it's that's not me. I didn't think that was me either. you know? And Did we yearn or desire for a parent's attention or a way to stand out or a way to differentiate from our siblings? And did we learn through achievement that we got attention or we got praise or we got love or it felt good? So sometimes underneath it, there can be this place of wanting to prove something, right? Maybe not enough doesn't resonate, but wanting to prove, wanting to achieve, or when we did well, we got love or praise. So there's an imprint there. There's an imprint that we start to wire of, oh, when we do good, good things happen, or this feels good. We get connection, we get love. And that can drive us in a beautiful way. And one of the things I think of all these imprints is there is a gift, because even if we are working to prove our value or our worth, we're driven, we're ambitious, we can get things done. And the downside could be if we don't check in with it, do we go so far that there's not time for enjoyment and success? Another piece that I see often is sometimes there was a lack of safety or instability in childhood. Maybe there wasn't enough food or not enough money. So sometimes there can be this determination or this desire of, I'm never going to have that. I never want to be back there again. And so we're working to constantly create that, or there can be hypervigilance, or we can see that set in places with anxiety. Can we trust people? Can we receive help? Can we? And so those two things, big generalization, and there's a lot of facets to those, right? It doesn't have to be, oh, you didn't feel safe and you didn't feel worthy, but just nuance and layers that I see quite often.
It's really interesting that you speak to the not enoughness and the attention. And I guess, as you kind of said, potentially a self-worth piece in there as well. I did an MDMA journey on the weekend, and it was actually around money and my relationship with it. And I've always thought, just my general understanding of my colourful upbringing, that there would be that there would be some kind of worth piece in there. I just couldn't see exactly how it kind of showed up. So it's really interesting that you spoke to a point that featured in my journey on the weekend, that also features for a lot of people where they can't see it on a conscious level, but the unconscious pattern. And I think what I wanted to speak to really quickly there is, it is a bit of a dance, because a lot of the great things that have been created on this planet come from men or women that have this exact wounding. A lot of really impressive things that have been formed in this world. So there is kind of the upside to it, I guess, in a very roundabout way. But where would you like to see these people's success come from, in terms of what would healthier drivers look like at the core of all of this?
Yeah, one thing that comes up for me as you say that I'll just throw out there right now, a lot of times people are afraid if we heal or integrate, they will lose some of their magic or their gift. I see this a lot
I've got
with
the same
entertainment.
one. I've got the exact same issue. Yeah.
Okay,
I just won't be motivated. I'll go and sit on a couch and a beanbag all day because, okay, my wounds have gone.
Right. Okay. We'll have to do a session around that. We'll do a session. We'll explore that. We'll see what's there. And one of the things that I want to tell people, whether they believe it or not, go ahead and say it. We don't lose the gift. We get to still have the gift. We get to, just as you were asking, how can we reorient moving towards a place of desire instead of away from that pain? Right. And because that allows us to enjoy it and have more of a moderation in the journey. We could say, okay, I'm going to work until 6 versus I have to work and burn myself out, different things like that. So when we start to integrate these, and again, people can think of it almost as we're not deleting the file, right? If we're talking programs, it's we're upgrading the file. So if we love the motivation, that imprint's still there. We also just want to install joy can be part of it. Relaxation can be part of it, because oftentimes there's a wiring, these parts of us that the belief came in, I get success and drive in this way, but if I stop, I can't, right? A belief, and maybe at a point in time that was true. Maybe we had a childhood where it wasn't super stable and we had to mobilize to even take care of a parent, to be more of the parent. And if at that point in time we weren't on and we didn't function, things legitimately may not have been okay. So there may be truth, but now as an adult, we want to help those parts see, you did so good, you worked so hard, but we made it. Look where we are. And a lot of times there's surprise for these parts or pieces of like, oh, we did? We're not stuck there? Because it's like they're looping in time, not realizing we made it out of that period, that survival, that we have to, that we're okay now. And so when we can drop into that and upgrade and reinstall that, it's kind of the we can have it all idea versus these parts. So a lot of times when we talk about parts too, they're often younger child consciousness versus the functional adult. So the functional adult knows that there is room for balance and all of it, but we are more myopic when we're younger in these different developmental periods. So they're usually much more black and white, this or that. This, I can have this or it's going to go terrible. And so when we can start to expand that view and integrate these pieces, we also get to start to have more energy for life. It's like almost different operating systems. If we think about circuitry, like if we were born perfect and whole, believing anything was possible for us, and it was just on that loop, and then life starts to happen and we go, oh, maybe I have to earn love. And now it's like the circuitry is going through all these different pieces, and they can come out and they can take us over and sort of hijack. So as we start to work these parts and integrate, more get to come back into wholeness. And it's like this energy that it was taking to run through all these different pieces now gets to come back online. We can feel more resourced, more creative, physically less tired, and so all of it gets to come back in. And I don't know if, I tend to go like this, like squirrel off a little bit. So I'm not sure if we answered the question,
I
but
can't even remember what the question was because that's okay. I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I really like your this or that piece, and I think that is significant for a lot of, at least in my world, a lot of successful people. It's success in business, and then this belief, this limiting belief, as you said, that everything's going to kind of fall by the wayside if they shift their focus. What for you does have it all look like? Because I also use that language a fair bit in my world. But what does that look like, and how does that potentially for someone tie into fulfillment?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I think for a long time, I probably fell into that bucket of it could be this or it could be that, or so single track focus. I don't know that it was probably more that I didn't even stop to examine all categories and even notice, did I think it was possible? What was my belief? So for me today, what that means is what kind of parent do I get to be? Can I be present and available? Can I be attuned? One of the things for any parents out there, and, being in this line of work, I feel like I'll do something and I'm like, oh, dang, that was a fracture, like, okay. But one of my teachers that is one of the godfathers of attachment theory is like, listen, you only have to get it right 33% of the time. I'm like, those are numbers I can work with.
I'll take
like,
that.
Right. And that it's in the repair. So also if we can own what we did and say, hey, mommy didn't really get that right. I don't like that I lost my cool. I'm really sorry. We show them not only that we're human and mistakes are okay, but that we can own it and we can apologize. And then we're back into that repair and reconnection. So for me, being a mom is a big part of it. And of course, there is that success and drive and what are we earning, because it brings ease. We like to do fun stuff. I love to travel. I love to not be able to have to say, ooh, we can't do that. And one of the things that I love teaching the kids too, as we squirrel a minute and then come back, is that we can have anything. Let's figure out how we can earn that. What's that look like? Let's do a little research. You want to have a snake? What's that require? What's that cost? What's that look like? And really teaching them the value of anything is possible, because I think what's that program? I do want to install that. And it's not all possible because somebody just gave it to you, right? So what's it look like to be able to work and to earn it? Really having a deep connection and relationship is very important to me. Something that probably I think I probably craved it when I was younger, but didn't really know to the depth or the level that I really wanted it. And having a relationship, and that's part of why I got into it. When I first started getting into relationships, I had no intention of ever using it professionally. It was more like, is it me? Is it them? How do I break this code and figure out what's happening here? And then being almost infuriated at the misinformation I think that's out there around that. And how do we have it? How do we get there? So yes, how can we have growth? How can we have purpose? How can we be contributing? Because I think that's something that when we feel like we are achieving something or making progress on something that's important and meaningful to us, it lights us up, it fuels us. Things can be draining and depleting, but when we really find that zone that feels good and what we want to pour and deliver into the world, it can really light us up. It can be energizing. Work doesn't have to be something that takes from us. It may be an old belief that we saw because maybe we observed our parents not love what they do. So for me, it's kind of, again, all those categories. What does health look like? You know, what is contribution? What does, you know, so for me, I'd say relationships are huge. Parenting, what's the impact and how are we shaping these beautiful tiny humans? What is contribution and what I get to see and pour into others, and how can we empower them to create change, and then that ripple that pours out into the world. And then of course health, because I've had some like gnarly health journey too, as so many of us I feel like have, that find this work. And when we don't feel good, it is so hard. It's hard to function. It's hard to be patient. It's hard to have the motivation and drive. So those being some big ones, but then also not letting other things fall off that I'm probably forgetting at the moment. But, you know, I think for me, it's really what is connection, health, contribution. And are we having fun and play? I lose that from time to time. You know, I get into my zone of like, even though I teach it, still fall into those traps sometime. And I'm like, why am I so tired? Oh, have I done anything fun lately?
Okay. I want to run you through my 6 Ps, and I've got a bonus one, which is 7. And I want to see if anything missed. The 7th one is actually called play. All right. So I'm going to run it through.
Yep.
Through your filters. And I want you to tell me what I've missed, because I've been working on this for probably about 12 months. All right.
Okay.
Number 1, performance, all things health and fitness. All right.
Okay.
Number 2, personal growth, self-mastery, personal development, spirituality.
I can't believe I didn't label that one. So it's really good we're going through your P's.
Okay.
Because I probably feel like I'm dying when I'm not growing as we're wired to.
I'm
so
feeling
yes.
you. Number 3, purpose. So within purpose, it's obviously career, but I also look at purpose through the lens of like time, freedom, contribution, and meaning.
Yep.
Number 4, profits, because Maslow's hierarchy, can't go too far without it. Number 5 is partner and parenting, if you've got kids. And number 6 is people. And then number 7 is play. So hobbies, holidays, anything that's kind of individual to you. You might be interested in knitting or ballet, etc. Is there anything that I've missed? I've spent a lot of time on this. Anything that you would be like, I reckon this is a key piece to fulfillment that you've missed?
No, I think it's great. I think you've done a really all-encompassing job. Again, one of the big pieces, I think, being growth. And it's, I think, different levels for different people. But for me, that's a huge one. So it's interesting that as I was going through it, I'm like, oh, I forgot that one. Yep. No, I love it. I think it's great. And I love I know that's not an acronym, but anything that's fun and easy for people to, right? Like, oh, I have an
100%.
acronym. I have a tool. I have the 6 Ps. Like, I love it.
I want to talk to you because I know one of the terms that I've seen across one of the platforms, whether it's your website or your Insta, is success coach. I'm fascinated in that, knowing that, well, thinking actually that some people that come to you might be wanting more success. And is there a reshaping of success when they come to you? Obviously, you need to build rapport and not kind of potentially break that in the early stages. But how do you navigate that if they're coming to you for quote unquote success, potentially the surface level success, and maybe the underlying driver from a place of lack? That must be such an interesting piece to work on.
Yes. So thank you for bringing that up. So I got a couple pieces about that. Number 1, I have sat with, that's not what I do. I'm going to change that, but I haven't changed it. And I would say it is part of what I do, but I would say it's success not in the way that traditionally people think of it, because many people that come to me have already had great success in an area, and now they're looking to have it in other areas. So I would say many people that find me are that ambitious, driven, and have had success. So not necessarily, and that's where I've started to lean towards transformation. And then I get a little caught up in analysis paralysis. What do we call it? What's the right thing? And then I don't change it. But yes, it's really about the success in all areas. I think if we were really sticking with that word, it's not just how can we earn more or how can we have more, but how can we have the type of success that feels rich and deep, which often I think is more connection. Some people, it is different levels of success in business. There still is some of that. You know, I work with a lot of traders and professional poker players, and we want to work till we want to be able to be performance on demand and do that so that we can have more success. And what I would say is always a piece of it when we start to uncover is it's not just that. And sometimes it is that almost compensating for something else that is hurting or not working. And so we've doubled down. And so it's slowing down and pulling back and saying, amazing, we can still have that. But ooh, this sounds like this might be a little bit of a sore spot here. Let's talk about that also and start to reshape. Are we avoiding through this? Because that's sometimes what people can do too. If something doesn't feel good, if the relationship doesn't feel good, do we avoid by leaning more into work because we get validation and acknowledgement and that feeds us in that way?
This is excellent. The way that I often speak to that is being a one-trick pony. E.g., you're very good at one area of your life, but you're dropping the ball in the other areas. What's the mentality in your world of these guys? And when I say guys, I'm talking about men and women. But coming into your world, is there awareness of the other areas that they're dropping the ball? Do they not see the significance of the importance of them? Like, what's the story? And I guess everyone comes with their own story. But what do you notice as patterns? Because as a society, we're very quick to pedestal financial success and status, but yet, and I reckon you feel the same potentially based on what you said, I can't see that as success anymore if I know everything at home is an absolute wreck, if I know that their health is a wreck, if I know that mentally that they're struggling and that they're not mentally well. Like, I can't look at that in the same spotlight the way that large portions of society do. So what do you notice is their take on themselves and their, potentially big success in one area but dropping the ball in other areas?
Yeah, I would say it's probably a mix. Some people are aware. I would say more and more, and maybe this is just in general, people having more awareness, this kind of messaging being put out that's having people be in this space of curiosity and reflection. So I would say in the past, I probably got more where it wasn't acknowledged or they weren't permissioning themselves to look at it. Almost the denial was what helped them be okay. And now I would say more people are saying they might not lead with it, but as I'm sure you do too, I ask a lot of questions. They're like, why is that relevant? I'm like, just answer it, will you? Just roll with me here,
Yeah.
and then it's oh, okay, well, we haven't been intimate in a long time, or I've been meaning to do that, or I've been putting it off for next year, maybe health-wise or different things like that. So I'd say more and more people are starting to have awareness, realizing, okay, this is my main focus, but I'm interested in this. Now, sometimes through exploration, when I can help them see, because I think another belief is that, oh, things are very separate, right? Everything's a silo. I've got my work bucket and I've got this. And one of the things I tell people is it's more like everything is a pillar that is supporting life if life was a plate up here on top. When one is wobbly, the whole thing shakes versus it being this independent silo. So relationships, I think, is an easy example on work performance. If we are feeling connected and supported, we're that flying high, we need less sleep, we're more creative. We've all been there. And then that very same thing can bring us to our knees in a moment like heartbreak, where we're down, where we're sad, we're not feeling creative. Maybe we leave the house, we're fighting with our partner, and we show up to work where we get to exert dominance and we overcorrect and we're a little aggressive in the meeting and things don't go as well. Well, nothing with our knowledge, skill, or ability changed. It was only a rupture in our intimate connection that changed our mood, our energy, and the way that we showed up. We're less of a team player, we're more rigid, we're more sensitive, whatever those things may be. So I think that's an easy one to show where one category that can seem separate ripples in and impacts that. And same thing, if our health is not good, if we don't have the energy, if we don't have the clarity, if our kids aren't okay, if these things wobble and it's hard to chase multiple rabbits. So how do we keep a check on these things and make sure that we're nurturing them all so that everything gets to be flowing in that same direction?
You spoke of pillar there. I'd be interested in your thoughts on balance, because in a roundabout way, what you and I are talking about and have been talking about from the start is the importance of having it all. And I guess, depending on your relationship to the word balance, having a better balance in different areas of life. But it's really interesting because I've heard different people's takes. I heard Dan Martell's take on balance last week, which was really interesting and gave me a new perspective. But how do you see the word balance? Because it's very hard for people to buy into work-life balance or buy into thinking that work-life balance is possible if you want to achieve a certain level of success. So what's your relationship like with a word like that?
Yeah, it's funny as you say it, part of me is like, meh. It's sort of like
I get it.
a fallacy or you can't have it. But it's not that you can't have it. I think it's the way that we look at it and orient, because even in balance, I think people get very extreme in black and white and that it has to be this perfect, this and that. I think it's really slowing down and looking at what is important to us. And then you'll hear it's seasons of life. And yes, there are seasons, and yes, we can lean more into a couple things, but my belief is not with ignoring something else, right? Because let's say the season's not my health season. I'm like, that's going to bite you. And so I think it's really looking at what do we want to have, feel, and create, and then being aware of all these. Some people like the wheel of life, or I just have even a list of the different categories where, hey, let's rank ourselves on a scale of 1 to 10 so we can take quick inventory of whether we're doing it or we're not. And where would you like to be on that? And you don't need to be a 10 in every category. That's not wrong to say, I need all of these to be 10s. And though, are we a 2 and really probably for us to sustain and to do better, we should take it to a 5 or a 6? We should be doing some sort of movement or at least getting our blood work done or certain things and helping people see the holistic picture of it's easy to say, let me go all in. At what cost? And where does that cost catch up to us? And so I think being intentional with, I probably don't even really use the word balance that often, but what I do talk about is what is important to us and where does it go on the calendar? If it isn't scheduled, it isn't real, right? Like what's that?
Talking to the converted.
Yes. What is that?
Yeah.
I'm going to botch this quote, but it's like dreams without deadlines are just dreams or something. Like it's not going to happen. And so if it's, I want to have more time with the kids, amazing. What does that look like? What does that actually look like? Does it mean we're showing up and we're taking them to practice? Does it mean I'm giving 2 hours of focused attention? Because I think sometimes too, people get expectations. And I always want to remind people, is that a societal pressure of I have to drive my kid everywhere to everything? And is that really where you have that quality impact time? Or is it, hey, we can have somebody help pick them up from school and take them here. But then when they get home, you've got this, we're playing a game or we're reading and I'm with you in your world. And what really creates more impact for them, but still allows you to achieve the things that you want to achieve. So I think it's really just each individual saying, what do we want? What at the end of the night allows us to go to bed feeling accomplished and proud? We don't have this guilt lingering, and that's different for everybody. It doesn't have to be a hard workout for everyone every day. And though, let's agree that we need movement or something throughout the week. And then where do we put it? Where do we balance that? I did use balance. Okay, so where do we balance it? I guess I do bring it in sometimes.
She's in it. She used it. She used the B word, ladies and gentlemen.
I used it. I brought it in. But really okay, what do we want and what does that look like? Where are the date nights with the partner? If things, we have to have connection time, because if we don't, we get caught in keeping up with life, and we want to be architecting and creating and driving life versus it leading us and feeling like everything is constantly in fast forward.
Do you know what? I've had 160 episodes and I've probably never resonated so much. We use different language, but we're literally talking the same language. It's really cool. I talk about life by design or life by default. And most people are just like, no matter the level of success that they got, they're like, life is by default. They're getting pushed and pulled. They're not actually in the driver's seat of their own life.
Yes.
Wild. So
yes.
What I find really interesting, and I don't know how this looks in your world in America, is what I deem quite sloppy really as a societal norm, but a lot of society deems it as quite honourable, is sacrifice. I sacrificed everything for my family. But hang on, mate, your family left because you never saw them. How do you, because I think the language that you use is like, what's the cost? So when people are coming into your world, and I'd be really interested in knowing if there's a difference between males and females in terms of their mindset around what's the cost, because society will be, society kind of gets around them and gives them a little applause because they sacrificed everything for their careers. Whereas I just look at that as fucking ignorant these days. I've got a slightly different take on things. But what do you notice come up for you around this societal applauding of sacrifice and the cost of things?
Well, here we are again, just resonating on the same page. I agree that I feel like it's kind of horseshit, because at what cost? Okay. And sure, do we have dedication and discipline and work and effort? Absolutely.
Totally.
And we have to be aware, what else are we wanting to foster? Because when we go all in on something like that, and it doesn't mean, I don't want people to say like, it's bullshit. No, hard work is okay. And is it also important to have connection or time with your family or play? Because also I would challenge someone to say, even because different seasons in life, let's say somebody's single, not a family yet, they're not even interested in the relationship because this is the thing they want to do to further their goal. There is nothing wrong with that. And I would say for them, are you making time to reset, nourish, renew, and play? Because that allows you to go and do even more. So I think there's that, yes, we can do that. And are you doing the things that fill the cup back up so that we can keep going? Because I think the biggest thing, and more and more people I think are starting to acknowledge it now, burnout. But yes, for so long, it was a badge of honor that we're going to hustle, we're going to grind. There's stickers, we're going to print it on t-shirts, we're going to, right? It's like everywhere.
Yeah,
like, look at me. And working hard is badass. And what is even more badass is, what if you can achieve huge, amazing, great things and do it Tim Ferriss style, right? Or 4-hour work week, or like, what can you construct to build to support what you're doing? Systems, support, teams. Are you a good receiver? Do you trust people to be able to offload things and hand it out? Because I would challenge and argue, again, that it's not just about what we're going to get there, but are you living along the way? And are you taking care of yourself enough to enjoy whatever it is we're working to create when we get there?
This is good. This is really good. So, which ball are you dropping at the moment? Of the 6P, the 7Ps, or in your language, which one feels like it's not where you want it to be?
Probably, you make sure you tell me it's in the right category. Okay, play. I know it's my bonus one.
Yeah.
Am I playing enough? Guilty, probably not. Like, And then the other thing too is, as we do, I teach things, but I still have my own parts and stuff that comes up. And so sometimes with some of my health stuff, I'll have health flares. At the moment, a bit of adrenal fatigue. I have blue tongue with my methylene blue because
yes.
Yeah, as somebody's probably gonna be like, what's with her? And somebody will probably judge of like, she's doing that thing. I'm like, well, hey, you know what? Doesn't have caffeine in it. It helps me feel better, but ketones and methylene blue at the moment, like, how can we create more energy? But the big thing for me is I can have a bad habit of doing more because I really love helping. So let's say client reaches out, hey, can I do this? I am not a super stickler on, nope, I already hit my max for the day. And so putting extra in, and again, the thing would be at what cost? Sometimes if I'm doing enough to support myself, it's okay, I can handle that. And then sometimes too, if I'm not, I will burn myself out. Or if I'm feeling a little tired, am I taking a nap? Or was I in the past reaching for that caffeine, reaching for something to get an edge, when really the thing I need to do is slow down for a minute to be able to reset and replenish?
What is generally the cost for you? So, is it like, who suffers? Is it your health? Is it your partner? Is it the kids? What's the thing that often gets pushed aside if you step into work more for you personally?
Yeah, I would say, so the first thing probably, okay, I don't know if it's the first thing. Ultimately, my health will, if I'm pushing too much and not slowing down and not doing the things that I need to do. And the other thing is the kids and relationship, all of that can be impacted. Because if I'm allowing those extra hours and I'm doing more, did the date night get pushed? And that's something that I would tell people you're not allowed to do. I'm going to listen to that also. And sometimes it can be justifiable. We say, oh, it's just this week, right? Oh, next week I'm going to do it. And so with the kids too, that can definitely be a thing. And one of the things that I've struggled with guilt sometimes is, okay, am I giving my best all day long to other people? And now I'm not having stuff left in the tank and I'm short or snippy with them. I was like, okay, that doesn't work for me. So what do I need to redesign here? Right? Doesn't mean that I can't work. It doesn't mean that I can't still be building and growing, and though prioritizing, okay, how do I do better about that? Okay, maybe it's less hours a day or less clients per day. And being really intentional with, okay, this weekend, we're going to have this activity where there's nothing, there's no phones, everything gets put away. How do we get to have that presence where they get to feel that delight and total presence into them? Because I know the impact of what that gives, right? So many sessions, including my own, are about, I couldn't get my parents' attention, or they weren't there, or I didn't feel as important. So being able to say, okay, if I'm doing life by design, what is important to me and where is it happening? And I think one of the biggest things, I was always really resistant to a calendar, almost like I'm smart enough.
I'm about
I
to
don't,
ask you about that next.
right?
It's already
I
there.
I don't need that. Literally, when I was running the orthopedic company, we did surgeries, and at some point, I started to put them on the calendar. But I'm just like, yeah, Tuesday it's this, and Thursday it's here, and the trays need to go, and somehow. And I think it felt like a calendar at one point in life was constricting, like it held me back. And really, that reframe that no, a calendar creates space and freedom, because when everything gets to go down, now we know where the play is. Now we know where the connection is. Now we know where the fun is and the open space. And also, too, not to talk about the mental exhaustion of those parts that always want to help us, trying to remind us of all the things we need to do. But when we put them down and schedule them, those parts can relax. Oh, she's doing it next Thursday. She's doing it on the 22nd. She hasn't forgotten. Nothing's going to fall apart. We're okay here.
You're already one step ahead, my friend. But my next question was, what's in your calendar that is a non-negotiable? And I'm mindful of what you said before, that sometimes non-negotiables get challenged. But what do you put in your calendar, whether it's time with partner, kids, health? Like what fits for you?
One of the things that I absolutely have to do to be able to do what I do for work, which is part of, I think, what feeds the whole picture, is I have to do sessions for myself. Now, those can look like different things. So I love growth. I love diving in and processing. So I have coaches and therapists and healers that I work with, but really, and recently so I used to do, I'm getting ahead of myself with all my thoughts going faster than my mouth, which my mouth can go very fast.
It goes
So
fast. It must be a fast operation you're running.
I was with my girlfriends over the weekend and they were like, whoa, your mind is like boom, 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 boom. And I said, you know what's interesting? I'm pretty sure it's slowed down. I think that's hypervigilance, a little trauma there.
I get it. Capital T.
Exactly. Without those things for me, I am not always the best at scheduling, say, an empty hour where I just reset for myself. If, though, I schedule an hour massage or an hour Reiki or an hour session with a practitioner that I work with, that time I don't then cancel. That stays on the calendar. So, and that is really essential, I think, in being what we do. I don't know, I'd love to hear your view on it, but holding for people, which I love doing and is beautiful and I'm honored to do. And I need to be able to put myself in that same seat to be able to then process and unload and move through what I need. Because what that does too, and I think sometimes people don't realize what we hold, almost like the visual of we're a bucket and stuff's being put in. Do we take the time to dump it out so that we don't take all of that to the relationship, to the kids? Where are we putting it? Do we journal? Do we do sessions with someone? I think one of the things too that I love people to hear, especially high performers, because a lot of people say, oh, growth or this internal work, oh, I don't have trauma. It's not about trauma. It's about life leaves little imprints and we have patterns. And are those patterns serving us? Is there something different that we want to have, a tweak, a turn, and we can't quite figure out how to get it? That's the work. It doesn't have to be tragedy and heartbreak. It's optimization, and really helping people realize too that you don't need to be broken to have this. It's even better if everything is amazing and we have this solid foundation. What's possible then? And for some of us, yes, we do need to dig through and relay some of the foundation, but really being able to do that. So I think for me, that's such a piece, because when I don't do that, I am just not my best. I'm not as present. I'm not as relaxed. I'm not having a place to let it out. So I notice that I can be shorter with the kids or more frustrated with my husband. And I'd say even less available for clients, right? Like if you're full and we haven't had play or fun or relaxation, it's like, oh, well, we're still going to do a good job and I'm going to smile. But I know that I can do an even better job when I take care of myself first.
This has been excellent. Really, really good. And it's kind of cool. I haven't experienced this in the 160 odd episodes. Someone so alike, but in their own language, speaking. It's really cool just to hear it in someone else's language and someone else's view. So I've really appreciated that. For those that want to find out more about you and the work that you do, where's the best spot to send them?
Yeah, the website is great, which is Sam with 2M's hunter.com. And on Instagram, it's Samantha with 2M's. So SAMMANTHA Hunter. And those are probably the two places I am the most. I'm also on Facebook and other places, but yeah, the website's great. Reach out through the form. I'm trying to always be better with my ops team, making sure everything's working. But Instagram, I guess, is always working. So find me there, send a message. So excited and honored. I always love hearing from people because, hey, we can help in the ways that we think, but what do people want the most support around? What do they want help with? So always love hearing from people.
So good to have you on and to chat all things performance health, everything that we chatted about. There was so much in there. So
yes, I love it so much. Well, thank you so much for having me on and sharing me with your audience. And I hope it has been useful and it has been such a joy and so fun to resonate and hear all of the same pages. I feel like I love too those little parts of me that like validation. I'm like, oh, okay, we're on the right track. Other people are doing the same thing,
That's a good way to think about it. I hadn't considered that.
Yeah, I love it.